Faith Church, I hope you are well. I'm in obviously the sanctuary here and getting a lot of time in this room on my own. I always appreciate time in this space by myself, just to come and to pray and to think, and I come here regularly actually, but I'm not used to this much time alone. I prefer actually a healthy balance of being in isolation and solitude, and then back in community. And I think actually God has given us that rhythm of fellowship to solitude, back and forth, the church gathered, the church scattered. And like many of you, I'm really missing opportunities to be together. I hear from people every day in our church about them just can't wait to be back to gather in worship and fellowship. So I thought it might be good to just give you some sense of what we're thinking about when we can gather again. We, of course, are going to first and primarily listen to our public health officials. I know there are brothers and sisters in other churches whom we love, who disagree and who are even protesting. But we recognize, I hope you recognize, that the New Testament teaches us that we are to submit to the public authorities. Romans 13, I'll just read a couple verses there where Paul writes, he says, "Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, whoever rebels against the authorities is rebelling against what God has instituted, and those who do so will bring judgment on themselves." We may disagree with what our public officials dictate and tell us to do, and that is our right to disagree. But to the extent that we are not being asked to forsake our obedience to Christ, then we will subject ourselves to them, and so we're committed to doing that. We're also, on the same hand, committed to, even when we are allowed to gather again, to making sure that we don't exclude people in our gatherings. By that I mean we will continue to offer online worship even when we're allowed to gather together for in-person worship, because we know that some will not be ready to come back and meet in person, and so we don't want to exclude people. And we'll do the same with classes and life groups, and we want to get together as quickly and soon as we can, but we also recognize that some of us will be able to gather more soon than others, and we don't want to exclude people from gathering. So there'll probably be a season where we'll have a worship here in this room, but also an option to worship online as well. And we're just going to wait till public officials tell us in terms of retreats. The men's retreat's been postponed. The fall retreat, we're hoping, will still happen. Mission trip, we're still waiting to see. So just stay tuned on those things. The second thing I'd say is that even when we are allowed to gather, our leadership will think carefully about how we gather. And as most of you know, we established an advisory team of 3 individuals in our church who have extensive experience in medicine, public health, and infectious diseases, and we have been deferring to them about good practices in terms of protecting not only our own folks, but also the people beyond us in our community. And so they will continue to help us to do that. And I know this is difficult. I'm tired of talking to my phone. I'm tired of preaching to my phone. I'm weary of meeting people on Zoom when I would much rather meet with them in person. And so I share the frustration with that. But I want to encourage you to persist, that we continue to gather together as we are allowed, even if it's through computer screens. There's a great verse I quote it often from Hebrews 10, where the writer says that we should consider how we could spur one another on to love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, all the more as you see the day approaching. And so I want to spur you on and encourage you, as you encourage me, that we need to be gathering for worship on Sundays, Sunday mornings, online, and gathering for life groups as we're able, that we would connect with one another. As you know, God puts someone on your heart and mind, call that person in the church, see how they're doing, check in with them, spur them on. That we're in the Word together daily. Today's reading was from Genesis 30 and from Psalm 39. I would encourage you to read those texts today. And that you also go online and check that shelter-in-place rule of life we have that gives just some really, I think, healthy guidance about how we can establish some rhythms in this season. So be encouraged. We're meeting tonight, in fact, our elders, our sessions meeting to continue to discuss, among other things, how we are going to move forward. So pray for us, pray for wisdom, and know that we look forward to being together as soon as possible. Blessings to you today. May you know the love of God, the grace and peace of Christ, and the fellowship of the Spirit. See you soon.